natural course. No citizen is exempted from this kind of behavior. So I would like to make it absolutely clear to the people of Uganda that you can't solve a problem in Karamoja and say in the Luero Triangle and leave fighting continues in West Nile. Or you can't just have everybody in West Nile coming back and solve the problem in Karamoja and Mpigi district and Mukono district and hope that the triangle doesn't form part of Uganda. Therefore, I would like the general public to look at the council policy in that light, that we are welcoming citizens back and we want them to be law-abiding, and it is our belief that all forces at play must be brought into this peace process.
Well, Colonel, as much as you and I believe that the future of the Uganda continues to be the concern of everybody, there appears to be a state of conflicting ideas between the people and then the military council about your reconciliation program, where you brought back the fighting forces to be together in Uganda. In the case that a fighting group will not recognize the other one, that these are loyal, these are disobedient, or this nature, how are you going to reconcile these 2 or 3 fighting groups that are already laid down their arms?
Well, we had on 21st of August a joint meeting with all the different fighting groups with whom we have already signed a memorandum of understanding. In that joint meeting, all the groups recognized one fact, and that is that the cause for which they were fighting is no longer there. So that is one point. The second point is that they cannot disagree with each other because the cause is finished. They were not fighting amongst themselves. They were fighting a government which somehow did not live up to the expectations of these various groups. And now that that government is out, they have embraced the policy of reconciliation, forgiveness, and the call by the head of state for all Ugandans to come back. They are saying, well, the best we can do to bring peace in this country is to put down our arms and join hands with the government to build a new Uganda, a happier Uganda than we have had in the past. If there are elements of indiscipline, for example, amongst the various groups, there may have been cases where you will see there are troops walking in town in civilian clothes with the guns. We've told their leaders that this kind of act should be stopped. And it is our intention to ensure that they behave like a disciplined force. And the same applies to UNLA soldiers. The government is doing its best to try and educate them to understand what the cause is for. The UNLA did not take over the government in order to punish the people. UNLA took over government to try and give something better for the people of Uganda. So they have to set the example to the people of Uganda that they really mean good. Occasionally, I know you will hear gunshots at night and so forth. I can assure you that these are not going off with the permission of the military council. These are some elements who perhaps after drinking at night, they go and they fire these guns. And we are doing everything possible to apprehend such people. Already I can tell you we have locked up a lot of officers, commissioned officers, and the men for misbehaving, including, among other things, refusing to return vehicles of civilians. The question of the army, the national army of tomorrow. You see, this is a very complex process. It is not possible for this country to absorb all the fighting forces into a new army. That obviously would be so huge that even our resources, financial resources, would not be able to maintain such an army. So when the time comes to create a national army, emphasis will be given on the size and the kind of quality, and it must be broad-based as well. I think I just wanted to add that.
This is an open question. Although people are happy that the army intervened on the 27th of last month to get rid of Obote, but another school of thought asks, why didn't the army intervene in 1980 during the general elections, if the elections were rigged by the then, president? I don't know if you would throw some.
Well, I don't know. That's a very complex question you are asking. But what I can say in this regard is that, first of all, you heard the CDF tell you that the army did not want themselves to fight. A national army of a country is not meant to fight amongst themselves. It's meant to defend the country against the external aggression. However, because of the political manipulation in the country, somehow they managed to split a national army into factional groups. And that resulted in making them knock their heads. As to why they did not intervene in the 1980 elections, I think you must look at the fact that the elections were organized by the politicians. And probably it was hoped that the whole process would be politically resolved. And when the years went by, and then the signs were that another election would come, probably this time another political party would go to the bush. The army were tired of fighting a war of too many fronts within the country, hence the action they took. I must say it is a difficult question to go deep into.
Yeah, I just wanted to perhaps request the Colonel to intimate right now that the Military Council has taken the initiative to hold these talks, and so far they have gone very well. Memorandums of understanding have been initialed with, I think, at least 4 groups now, and the other group they are being discussed. What is now the next stage? Because the first stage is initialing of memorandums of understanding. What are the plans of the Military Council? And
I think that's a very good question. It is the intention of the Council to continue that process at various stages. Where we are now is that as soon as we have initialed memorandum of understanding with all the groups, then we will have what we call a peace conference. This conference will have representatives from all fighting groups. It will have representatives of elders from various districts and religious organizations and so on. At that conference, major issues affecting the future of Uganda will be discussed, and then it will be the conference to give a basis, policy guidance to the Council and its cabinet for implementation within the interim period when we are holding the fort, so to say, and preparing the country for civilian democratic rule.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman, sir. The military council came up with a statement to the effect that the removal of the former Prime Minister Paulo Mwanga was in the national interest. Now, viewers have been wondering exactly what this means. Perhaps you could throw some light as to what caused the removal, relieving of Paulo Mwanga from his duties as former Prime Minister.
Well, it is exactly as we said. Our policy is, first of all, peace, security for all Ugandans, unity for our people, and the stability for the country as a whole. His removal was in the interest of all these things we subscribe for.
Colonel Toko, because the military council, in my opinion, was a little bit vague on this matter, a rumor had spread out that the former Prime Minister was about to overthrow the military council. And this is what people got very frightened, that the leaders are not working together.
May I ask CDF to answer this one?
Which is not true.
Part of the problem is the prisoners see some of the same faces they saw in the past. Tito Okello, the head of state, served under Obote. Amin Onzi headed the feared intelligence service under Idi Amin. Too many of the country's new leaders are old faces tainted with the past, and few Ugandans believe that they didn't play some role in the system they're now trying to change. Like Uganda after the coup, they're happy to see Obote out. They're happy to have a little breather of freedom, but they can't quite believe that the new regime will bring peace.
I want the people of Uganda to understand that although a regime is gone, the country is not entirely rid of supporters of that regime. It will be of great interest for them, those who are within and outside, to hear that under the military council things are not going all right. These are deliberate efforts on their part to, mislead the general public. And I really must appeal to Ugandans that the military council cannot wash your minds or your brain with a chemical in order to say now we start a new chapter. It is up to each and every one of us to understand whether or not the military council is genuine, and go out of your way to change your minds, to wash yourself and start a new chapter. Because this is one opportunity which I think is very rare. I must say that I can't recall of any case in Africa where groups that have been exchanging fire against one another get together under the chairmanship of one of them and they discuss their problems up to the extent of laying down their arms. I think this is a remarkable thing. So it is up to the people of Uganda to play their role. They may not have been carrying arms, but they've been carrying opinions in their heads. They've been carrying fixed views in their heads. So it's upon them again to do what these other groups have done and come forward. If you think there are certain issues which the military council is not tackling the right way, the best you can do is to come forward and make those suggestions. We welcome open suggestions from everybody. The council is not composed of jacks of all trade. We know that very well. And rather than you making life difficult for yourself, I'm sure people don't enjoy trotting up and down in Kampala when these rumors come. So we appeal to the public that come forward. Our policy is, if there's a problem, let's sit down and discuss it. Don't go around scaring your friend and they break their legs for nothing. There is absolutely no need for that kind of panic. Up-country people are living very happily. In Kampala, I've said time and time again that the situation is absolutely under control. Now, that is the best I can tell you, and I cannot visit you individually in your homes to assure you that the situation is under control.
Well, Colonel, from my observation, what you have been saying is to a Ugandan who is already for peace. But how about to the enemies of peace who would like such a situation to exist always? To see panic, to see people running up and down. What message could you give them? Or how are you going to deal with them?
The only message I can give to them is that if they are Ugandans, then the best way to solve the Ugandan problems is not by pointing the barrel of the gun, but by sitting down and discussing it. I personally would like to think that there's nobody in this world who thrives on the belief that he wants the world to be absolutely chaotic. Even if, for business purposes, you want the chaos in Uganda to continue, you need peace to enjoy that money you have earned out of the chaos. So peace is paramount. Where there's peace, everything else falls into place. And I'm of the view that this country is large enough for each and every one of us. There's plenty for all of us to keep busy. But for everybody to think the best way to be employed is in the government, I think is rather a fallacy.
These groups with whom we have already reached some understanding are in Uganda. They have put down their arms and they are cooperating fully and participating fully in the process of bringing about lasting peace in our country. The head of state and the chairman of the military council, General Toko, has time and time again stated that all Ugandans are welcome back home. If we have any problems or any differences that need to be discussed, let's get home, discuss them in a family atmosphere.
Well, at least in words and deeds, they talk of change, that they have changed, and they talk of peace. And they are not involved in the atrocities right now.
Now, the people of Koboko suffered a lot in 1979. They were uprooted, I know that. And I tried to stop it at that time, but I couldn't because I was in a bad group of people. I tried to tell Paulo Mwanga, to tell Oito Jok, that in spite of the mistakes of Amin does not mean the whole of West Nile, does not mean all the people of West Nile. He's just an individual. They would not listen. They unleashed. When the Tanzanians left, you remember the Tanzanians, when the Tanzanians were here, there was no problem with you. It was only when they left that the UNLA unleashed themselves on you and you had to flee. Now, I couldn't do anything at that time because although I was in the military commission, but I was a minority in the military commission. I had therefore to wait until I became a majority in order to solve your problem. As soon as we came into the government, I drove to the bridge at Oraba, and I saw your people inside Sudan, and I told them to come back. Using these private people to provide telephone services to you instead of using government companies which were inefficient and which couldn't do it. Therefore, there were no taxes being collected. The tax collection was very low. All the people who worked for the state at different times are recognized as public servants so that they can start benefiting, because it is a program which will take time. But we can start with those areas which has got a high number of veterans and ex-servicemen, like West Nile, like Luwero, and so on.